Hi, thank y'all for joining me today. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about representations on women in ministry and propose to y'all a book on women in ministry. So the proposal, B&H publishing industry, would y'all consider a book aimed towards women in ministry? This will be a book to bring light to the underrepresentation and as well as encourage women to step into their callings. So why is there a need? Well, according to the textbook Diversity in U.S. Mass Media, from a young age, we have gender schemas, scripts, or instructions for how to behave as your gender in certain situations. So therefore, if there's a lack of representation in women in ministry, and if women are more persuaded to stay silent and not open their mouths in the church, then that is more likely what women are to internalize and take on as their, say, script or behavior. So when there is the lack of representation of women in ministry, young women then look up to those things and internalize them, thus just continuing the cycle. So there's always been oppression of women. Sadly, it's moved to the church as well. So here are some statistics regarding women in the church. So in 1960, women were 2.3% of U.S. clergy, and in 2016, women are 20.7% of the U.S. clergy. By the way, this is according to a study done in 2020 by Aline Campbell Reed. So let's continue down some of these statistics. In 2015, Roman Catholic lay ministers outnumber priests in the U.S., and 80% of them are women. So that's a good thing. As you can see in these statistics, there are some increase in women getting a foothold and becoming emerging leaders. However, we still have a long way to go. When you go down the line, in 2017, women remain fewer than 25% of seminary faculty and deans, and just 11% of the presidents. So it does say that mainline denominations, in these denominations, the percentage of clergy women has doubled or tripled since 1994. So as we've seen, again, there is an increase of the representation of women in ministry. However, we still have some ways to go. So what is the impact of this? What is the impact of people looking at the church and seeing it being a male-dominated leadership? What is the impact of looking on the media, in these movies, in these news reports? Most likely it is a male religious leader commenting. Most likely it is a male religious leader in the church portrayed in the different medias in America. So the impact of this, let's look at the story of Erin Owens. So Erin Owens is a local pastor in Lubbock, and according to Erin Owens, she grew up and she had a strong calling and desire in her life to be a preacher, to be a pastor. However, she had never seen a woman fulfill that role. The only thing she had seen is them working with the children's ministry, and she didn't have a tug towards that. So Erin was stuck wondering, I guess something is just wrong with me. And she continued pursuing all these different career paths until she came across women who were pursuing those things. And it shouldn't have been that difficult for her to see her dream in people who have gone before her. And Erin isn't the only one. There are many young women looking up, and they do have these desires and these callings in their lives. However, there aren't people who have gone before them to lay out that foundation. So because of that, there's no one for these young women to look up to when they do have that desire and that calling in their life. So let's talk about opportunities for future representation. So this is a heart issue. I don't think that this is going to be fixed by slapping a Band-Aid on it from the outside in. I think that there is a root to this, and because of that, the heart needs to change before anything else can change. I think that things that can help and things that can start to pick up the root of this is we need better education, we need better representation, and people to speak up about the issue at hand. So again, this is an uncomfortable subject, and this is why this book needs to be published, because this is not something that a lot of people want to talk about. This is not something that a lot of people are thoroughly educated about, but it needs to be said and it needs to be brought into the light. So that is why there is, I'll move my screen a little, that is why there's a need for the book, and it would be titled, Should Women Be in Ministry? And throughout this book, we would first go over the history of the church and women in it. There's actually a lot of biblical stories and biblical knowledge about women in ministry. However, they aren't talked about as much. Also, we would go over the heart of God. I think as in the Christian culture, the word specifically talks about the heart of God and the love of the Father. And if that's not being correctly depicted in the church, then this book would bring to light any controversies in that. It would also exhibit practical ways for women to step out and use their voices. I think it's great to bring everything to the light and talk about this underrepresentation of women in ministry. However, we also need practical ways to go forward and move forward in that. So for our audience of women, there would be practical tools and practical steps to continue and move forward into this. We also need empowerment and education. This book is going to educate, and it's also going to empower the reader to step out into their calling despite the pushback. And it's also an awesome opportunity for women to share and influence in ministry. So this book would be written by a woman, and it would be influencing ministry. So that would be a really awesome way just to add to our cause. Yeah, so I hope y'all will consider my proposal. Here are my references. Thank you very much.